Growth is found in every room where people connect over a shared purpose. In this weekly podcast, Luke, Hannah, and Chris explore the role of purpose, courage, mindset, and culture in every leader's quest for transformational performance.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Magic in the Room. I'm Chris Province.
I'm Hannah Braderud.
And I'm Luke Freeman. And today is the day that probably every podcast and every news channel and everyone's going to do their 2020 roundup, right? So, but we have to do it too. This is our version. So today we're going to do 2020 in review. What are our takeaways? What are the things we're going to remember? What are the things that we learned this year, right? We're about learning, so that's probably going to be our focus. But to start off, I want to ask you guys a question. When you look back over this shit show of a year, what is the one thing that you think is going to be most burned into your consciousness that you're going to be talking to your grandchildren about one day? It's 30, 40, 50 years from now if you're Hannah. I don't know if Chris and I are going to make it that long, but Hannah's going to live to 100.
Yeah, right.
Definitely.
So, it's long ways in the future. What's that thing that has stuck with you about 2020 that you think you're going to be just telling a story about one day?
I want to marinate on that for a second. I got a question for Ben. Ben, do we have one of those bleep buttons that kind of covers up the mouth? Do we have one of those? Because something tells me we might need it in this episode.
We don't have enough followers for YouTube to find us.
Okay.
They might have machine learning.
Okay. And then, what I say is everybody kind of does the thing, the year in review, but damn it, like this one's not dead till everybody gets a whack, right? Because this one is going to be beat to death. And,
if there's ever a horse that deserved to be kicked until it was nothing left,
this is the one.
This is it. Okay.
So today
perfect.
we have our sticks. We're ready to roll. So the question is like 30, 40 years from now, what are the stories we're telling about 2020?
Yeah.
I don't know. For me, it's this was an upside down year, and everything that we thought going into it, got kind of flipped on its head. But not everything. And so I think when you say what's burned into you, well, pain sears into you and it creates marks. And it also makes you pay attention. And so what's interesting to me about this year that I will remember is that even though on a personal level and on many levels, this was one of the more painful years that I've experienced, I also accomplished something I never, ever imagined that I would do. And maybe it was because of that environment of pain, but I became a runner, a marathon runner, and I ran my first half marathon in the middle of all this chaos. And so that's something for me that I will always take back, even though this felt like a complete shit show on so many levels. Mm-hmm. That's like something that I feel proud of and that helped me maybe manage some of that pain throughout. And then, it's a new kind of way of life that has emerged for me.
Yeah. Wow, that's good. Okay, well, you got us out of doom and gloom pretty quickly. We'll see if Chris can take us back, though.
Yeah, right. 30 or 40 years. I think the lesson that I take away is like how comfortable can you get like suffering? Like when you are going through it. And there's so many cliches, like if you're halfway through hell, just don't stop, right? Like it's like that's what this was, or that's what it's been. Mm-hmm. We're not out of it yet, but it's starting to look better, starting to feel better. And I think it shows that thin line between order and chaos. Mm. And that's what I take away. That's what I will continue to share with leaders when people are having high degrees of success. Mm. Like, how are they continuously focusing on building resilience? Like, are they intentional about resilience even when they maybe don't need it? Mm. But that thin line between order and chaos and how that's maintained, that's what I take from this year, because it's not just the COVID thing, right? It's political, it's social. like, why do I know everybody's politics? Like, I do not have a need to know everyone's politics. But like, is that something we're going to be living with? So this kind of thin line, and holding that thin line in regard as to not disrupt the balance between order and chaos unintentionally.
Yeah.
Now, these things can be thrust upon me and I have to deal with it.
Right.
But I have such a higher respect for that thin line that exists. And I understand what's on the other side. If I'm living through chaos, I know what order feels like. You know, if I'm living in order, I definitely understand what chaos feels like. And it could always be worse.
Right.
Like last I checked, we all still have roofs over our head. We have food on the table. You know, it can be a lot worse. So am I doing the things to prepare myself to be resilient in those next moments, to continue to like build that character in the face of suffering?
Right.
Yeah. So what I hear you saying, Chris, is that the systems that we put so much of our faith in are so much more fragile than we assume that they are.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's a takeaway for me.
Yeah. And I want to speak to courage for a moment. It's why that fact, like what you just said, should empower everyone to take action. If you're thinking about doing something, go do it. Because we place, I guess, some unearned amount of value on these systems that create no safety.
Right.
Like that is a veil. You know, like whatever status quo is just as unsafe as what you're thinking about doing. So, you know, I take away with the message, like, go do the things. Don't love status quo. It's a fragile system anyway. So if you're thinking about doing something or concerned, well, that's not fragile, it doesn't feel safe, I can guarantee you it's as safe as what you're doing.
Yeah, that's good. So I'm going to go down this rabbit hole more before I share mine. So if I'm a CEO, if I'm a leader of a business unit, if I'm a leader of a family-owned business, like how should I take that truth that the status quo that I've put faith in is more fragile and provides less stability than I assume or have assumed it does? How do I apply that information?
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to look at ways to disrupt yourself. Maybe now the perspective towards change will start to move, you know, or that'll be modified a bit. This idea that, you know, we have this system, it's kind of run on itself, we do this much volume, we do this, we get this much EBITDA. Like, yeah, until you're not, until you get disrupted. And that continues to be kind of that theme. We work with a lot of companies that are they're disrupted. Somebody enters with a new technology that challenges an analog something that's been around 50 years versus this thing that's been around 2 years. So you have the highly efficient tech system versus the heritage analog system. And like what we've got to embrace is look at where our system is fragile and embrace disruption of that system.
Right.
And yes, it feels stable. Like that's the hardest part, is it looks stable. We're putting value in it as if it's stable. But if you were starting a company today, how would you position yourself against the organization you're operating? And those are the opportunities for disruption.
Right.
Yeah, that's good. Hannah, how about you? If you're a leader and you all of a sudden realize that stability is an illusion, like what do you do with that?
Yeah, I mean, hopefully we've realized that now, right? Stability is to some extent an illusion. And I do think being able to recognize, first of all, that the only constant is change. And so the more comfortable we become with embracing change and being able to take ownership of change, because change that's thrust upon us is uncomfortable. It feels to the brain like pain. Psychological pain feels like physical pain. It registers in the same way in the brain, which is why change can feel so painful and why this year, in so many ways, felt painful to people, because there was so much disruption and unforeseen change that happened quickly that got thrust upon us. But everything begins in the mind, and we do have the power to change our emotions by changing our thoughts, by changing our focus.
Yeah.
So if we change our focus as leaders and choose to look for the things that I can control and differentiate between what I fully have control over, which are my attitude, my concentration, and my effort. Those are the things I can control, right? Then there are some things I have influence over, and those are not directly under my control, but I can have some influence. And then there's a whole bunch of stuff that I have no control over, right? And so as a leader, stability, if I can be consistent and have some level of stability in where I choose to focus, what my attitude is, how I show up every day, how I kind of concentrate my efforts and the level of effort that I put in, I think we're in a better position to manage through change and disruption and instability.
Yeah.
Rather than focusing on outcomes, because the outcomes are variable.
Aren't there.
Right.
Yeah.
So for me, like I take that principle and I apply it to a leadership context. And I think if I'm a CEO or I'm a leader of an organization, I have to start thinking about leadership differently. If I wasn't already measuring leadership ability in my leadership team, and my frontline supervisors, and my mid-level managers, whatever, if I wasn't already managing leadership capability based on if they're able to lead change, navigate change, or enable others to navigate and lead change, then what are they good for?
Right.
Like if I'm still thinking about leadership or seniority based on technical expertise or stability with the organization or ability to day in and day out get the same deliverable across the line, like I have to start questioning if I have the right people in leadership roles. And looking ahead, like looking to 2021 and 2022 and 10 years out or whatever, knowing that stability is fragile, like why would I want anyone other than change leaders, change navigators, change enablers, change facilitators? Why would I want anything other than that, in my C-suite?
Right.
Well, and that whole takeaway is it proves, this is the proof that if you do not disrupt yourself, you will be disrupted.
Yeah.
So it just has to be more of a conscious choice, but you have to be built for it. The thing about those, kind of open up the organization and you see the battery and wires, those tick-tock, very mechanized, always producing the same results, and the very clinical management systems, like when this happened, they kind of go into hibernation.
Yeah.
And they come out and they're not reinvented in any way.
Yep.
It's the same technical system. And like now their strategy is hope. I hope the market hasn't moved away from us. I hope the demand's still there. I hope that this whole mechanized system we built for a prior period still applies. And if it doesn't, we are not outfitted to move.
Well, and the hope is, right, this is what our strategy is built on. It is we're going to, this mechanized gears and, things that are running in the chains, like we're going to just give them enough lube and protect them from rust enough so that when the gear can start turning again, Q3 2021, right? It'll come back, right? Yeah. When that happens, my strategy is that, well, I've got mine ready to dust the mothballs off of and it's in running, working order enough. And some of my competitors, theirs has gotten so rusted up that they can't turn it back on.
Yeah,
like that's what large industry is hoping for, right? If they haven't embraced change.
Right.
And so I think what I'm hearing us say and what I would certainly recommend is that, like, sure, maybe we have some things like that we like put some oil on it, make sure that it's going to be able to be turned back on or turned back up whenever the market allows. But why in the world would I put all of my stock in that?
Yeah.
Like, there's no reason to.
Right.
Like,
But Luke, I'm dying to know, what was your
My story.
big story from this year?
So I think the story that I'll tell to my grandkids is it was a day in early September, and I needed to facilitate a half-day workshop with the senior leaders of a large organization. But my back was physically not working. So I have struggled all year long with back pain. I don't know if I got an injury or if it had just slowly progressed over years of probably not lifting things correctly or whatever, but cycled through chiropractors, cycled through different trying to get assessed, and finally ended up in August where like I was completely immobile. I could get up to go to another room to lay down, but that was it. I was stuck vertical. But we as Purpose and Performance Group, like we needed to facilitate this session. And I needed to be the one that did it because of my relationship with this client organization. And so what I found myself doing on this day where I couldn't stand up for more than 2 minutes at a time to move rooms is I laid a blanket out on the floor that was green and propped my head up with a pillow that you couldn't see under the blanket to look as natural as I could, and put on a virtual background and picked the dress clothes that I had that I could kind of tuck in to make it look like gravity was pulling them down, and facilitated for 60 top leaders in the C-suite of a large organization for a half day, and they thought I was standing up facilitating virtually. And like, not that that's anything super special about me. Like, I was just like,
yes, it is.
What am I going to do?
Nobody else in the history of people I've known would do that. That is
No,
special
that's not
about
true.
you.
We were solving problems. People solve problems. That's
Yeah.
what I was doing.
Yeah.
And like, I really want to deliver value to our
Right.
clients, right? They can't lose because I'm not feeling well,
Right.
Right? That's
That
not
falls
okay
under
with me.
not their problem.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's my problem.
Yeah.
But like, to me, not about me, but looking at that as a metaphor for all the crazy things people have done in 2020.
Yeah.
Like, they have been debilitated.
Mm-hmm.
Their companies have been debilitated. Their strategies have had the legs knocked out from under them. And people have found themselves doing all of these crazy creative things to like just keep moving forward, keep delivering value, keep making something happen so that the next right decision can arise in front of us. And that's something that I don't want to lose, like for our team.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's something that I want to encourage the leaders that we serve, like, not to lose. Like, who cares how crazy it is? Like, try it. Let's see if it works, and let's move forward. So, yeah.
That's great. And yes, you would be the only one. Like, I think I would be audio only. So, but like that, it just speaks to your character and your care and how you show up. And that's one of the things we love so much about you. So, I want to speak to this idea. Like, did 2020 kind of put every team on an island? Because what I'm seeing and kind of what I'm going through now is the teams that didn't bring momentum into this are really struggling to find momentum right now.
Yeah.
So, like, is the turn of this calendar year an opportunity to break, and try to get something going? Because those systems where the gears were running, well, now they're shut down, they're mothballed. There's literally, like, there's no momentum. There's nothing to build from. There was nothing carried into it. So how do we get the momentum going again?
Okay, so I want to answer that question, but I also want to disagree with the premise of it, because I think it's half true that there are teams that didn't bring momentum into it and have really struggled and gotten bogged down and been directionless. But I also think as those gears and mechanisms that have just been status quo, moving forward, keeping momentum, as they've been mothballed, it's freed up people who were being constrained by those systems.
Yeah.
So I've seen a couple of clients who, like, there's one team that comes to mind that they had this meeting cadence that they were kind of doing, and the way that they tracked their deliverables and the way that, tasks were divvied out among people was very legacy. And what I've seen over the last, second half of the year is a couple individual contributors on that team that, just from an objective outside perspective, they looked like they weren't high performers to me. But when all those mechanisms got delayered off of top of them, they've been incredibly productive and innovative and moved their discipline and their area of responsibility forward way faster than if they had to do it through the cogs and turning gears.
Yeah.
So I think a smart leader, a smart organization needs to look for places where that's happened and figure out how do we keep them from getting caught up in the gears again.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my
I
tangent there. But I mean, to go back to your question, there's also folks who have lost momentum.
Yeah. It just feels like an island. Like if you didn't bring it here, you won't find it here.
Yeah.
But it's those individuals in those scenarios, like they're bringing it there, but they were probably generalists stuck in specialist roles in a mechanized system. So now they're showing up on this island, like stripped of all the weight with the seed to move things forward. Whereas like some teams just maybe don't have the capacity. Like they didn't enter this shutdown with capacity. So how do we re-stimulate? How do we re-energize those teams that are just having a hard time getting going again?
Yeah. A couple things going through my mind, teams stuck in an island, a lot of individuals feeling like they've been on an island as, social isolation set in. And, I think the need for community and connection is greater than ever. And I do think there's something there as well in how do we build momentum? How do we reconnect with ourselves, with our individual personal purpose, with our families, with our work teams, with our larger organizations, with our community and the world at large? Like, why are we even here? It brings us back to that question of purpose. I think when everything gets so disrupted and what we thought was reality is no longer reality, that sense of having a rug pulled out from under you and you're maybe free falling and you don't know exactly, because you're in this liminal space of things are not what they used to be. They're not yet what they can be. How do we capture the lessons and build momentum in that space, right? When things are uncomfortable and not feeling settled yet. But I do think there can be, and so my personal example of so much has changed in my personal life, so much had changed in our client organizations. There are a few things that remained true for me through all of this year is because I'd done that work and just going back to what is my purpose? Why am I here? What am I here to do? And the work that I get to do with the two of you and our larger team, even though it changed a little bit in terms of how we showed up to clients and pivoting, that is still constant. Like doing this work brings so much meaning. And then on the personal level of, I'm going to keep controlling the things that I can control, which is I'm going to go for a run 3 or 4 days a week and continue my training plan and continue to grow my capacity physically as I'm growing my capacity as a leader, re-energizing, all the energy that got depleted from all the different disruption this year.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that goes back to the episode that we have with Dr. Bob about the Kubler-Ross change curve, right? So a change happens. People typically go through these phases that de-energize them until they get to kind of the trough in the curve. And then they start going through these cycles that re-energize them. But what happens at the trough of the curve is they realize that they have personal agency and that this thing happened, but I have a choice on how I'm going to respond to it.
Mm-hmm.
And Hannah, when I hear you telling, the story about like, what do I have control over? Well, I can go for a run. Like that's you taking ownership of your own choices and like leaning into your agency as a human being.
Yeah.
And when I think about kind of this difference between the teams Chris mentioned that are like totally kind of lost on the island, like our store of rice is getting depleted. What are we going to do? Oh no. Like versus the story that I told about people who seem more, innovative, have more energy whenever the mechanisms of their organization were taken away. Like, what if the difference is agency, and feeling like they are going to move forward and make choice. And I think for us as leaders, for us as consultants, like how do we help people as quickly as possible move to that moment of taking personal responsibility for the choice that they have and how they're going to respond?
Yeah.
And maybe that's the story, a way to think about the story of 2020.
Right.
Like who took longer to realize they had a choice in how they were going to respond, and who felt like their handcuffs were still on. They were bound to the old way of doing things for most of the year. And there are going to be people that go through the entire year and the coming years still believing that they don't have a choice in what happened to them.
Yeah, it's getting this, that story, like life is hard, the sooner we accept it, the easier it becomes. It really, and my question for you guys is, what do you feel like the year called for? Like for people, for leaders to show up at their best, maybe for you individually to show up at your best. What did it call for? What was the trait or attribute or behavior that was really necessary? Maybe for you personally or at a broader level, like when you saw other leaders succeeding, what did that look like?
Yeah, I think for me, it does go back to that choice that you make every day of controlling the controllables or minding your controllables. Everything feels out of control right now on different levels, whether it's personally, professionally. I can control my actions. I can control my attitude. And it's hard, it's easier said than done, right? We get triggered emotionally when all this change happens, and it's easy to get carried away. For me, it called for just keep going back to, one foot in front of another, right?
Yeah.
It's like taking the steps, taking the actions, doing the things that I know will eventually bring me back to where I need to be. Like when I've been feeling like I'm in free fall or just spinning out, like I know there are things I can do to control my attitude, my emotional response, and a lot of those things are very simple, like how much sleep do I get? What am I doing to increase the quality of my sleep? Am I like reading news late at night and getting triggered and not being able to sleep? Or am I like shutting the phone down an hour before I go to bed and doing things that I know are going to help me sleep better? It goes back to, what am I putting in my body? How am I eating? Am I incorporating movement? Those are as basic as it went for me this year. It's like sleep, nutrition, exercise. I'm focusing on those things because I do know that those things are going to help me bring me back to where I'm firing all cylinders and I'm showing up as my best self.
Yeah, and I kind of want to add to that. I think what you just said is, those are tactical things that are immediately in front of you.
Sure.
And when I think about the year, and there's a reason I want to hand this to you, Luke, I think it called for, like above those things, like the things that are immediately in front of us, it also called for faith. Because outside of the things that are immediately in front of us, we have no idea. And, so I look at it, this idea that faith sees best in the dark. I think it was a good example of that, because outside of what I could see, there was nothing known. But what is it the faith in? Faith in my ability that wavered, faith in my resilience that wavered, faith in my purpose that wavered, and just spending all those time like questioning, like, am I doing the right thing? Am I doing it with the right people? Like this, like the walls start to close in, but you have to anchor back. Like, I know that I'm doing the right work. I know I'm doing it with the right people. Like, this is the path.
Yeah.
So, I keep going to Luke, what you share, and I love that philosophy of how to navigate, like through a snowstorm or when it's low visibility. Like you line one tree up with the next, and you can only travel as far as you can see, and that's it. But I think it really called out for that faith, and as a result, it called out for a strength of a network. Be able to pick other leaders up, people that were having the same questions. Like, you saw a lot of leaders just completely unravel. They lost faith, and they leave industries they were in for 20 years. What are they going to do next? They don't know. They're just not there.
Yeah.
So like strength of network and having people to pick you up, and a team like ours, like, I'm just so grateful for, like, working around the right people, doing the right things is what kind of kept that faith propped up.
Yep.
So your thoughts on navigation, faith, and what this year called for?
Yeah. I mean, it's a really good question. What did this year call for? I mean, to me, I think this ties into what you all shared. Like, the words that just jumped into my mind were letting go. Like, letting go of expectations, letting go of assumptions, and being able to let go quickly and let go of the things that mattered. And part of that's, navigating, like, what do I do today and how do I show up today? Like, I can't, like Hannah said, I'm going to let go of doom scrolling through the news, right? Because I can't control that. So what can I control, and what do I need to let go of? And really practically, talking to a client right now about is it time for us to let go of our expectation of high engagement scores on our team and in our organization? Like, is there a point where we as a leadership team, not that we're not compassionate, because we are. I mean, the fact we're struggling with this shows that we're compassionate, but we just cannot compete with shut down schools and people learning to live at home, and substance abuse that we know is happening, and teams who are learning a new way to be a team, and all of that. Like, maybe we just say, we can't, with the resources we have, make everyone feel good about their work right now.
Right.
And that's a really hard decision. Is it the right decision to let go of that or not? Yeah, I don't really know. But I think maybe it is, because then it would allow them to focus on what they can control, which is surviving and moving forward strategically through 2021 and all the unknowns that are going to come with 2021. So I don't know. I know for me, letting go has been important, because this year is much different, right, than what I thought it was going to be. But I think back to your question of faith, did 2020 call for faith? When we do that practice of letting go, we can only do that well when we have faith that there's something good that we'll be able to hold on to ahead. And if we can really believe that we're going to learn something through this, we're going to be better, more mature people, more mature teams, more mature and sustainable organizations after this. When we have faith in those things, I think we can let go of the things that allowed us to live and feed our families and do fun vacations and whatever it was that we valued before, that our jobs or stability gave to us. We have to have faith that, like, something better is ahead. And let's celebrate this thing that was, but let's let it go and say thank you and keep moving forward.
What do you feel, we talk about what the year called for, kind of the stories that we're going to tell, but when you look back, what opportunities were created, for you that otherwise probably don't happen, without 2020 and everything that it entailed. Like what presented itself to you that without 2020 maybe you would have missed out on?
I mean, I want to just even look at what we accomplished as a team internally at Purpose and Performance Group, and how that is going to set us up for having a completely different trajectory in 2021 and beyond. Because similarly to how I, on a personal level, was able to really just focus on, building endurance and strength as a runner and like emerging as a runner through this year, as a team, we were able to really focus in on our strengths as a team, the things that we create, the programs and philosophies, and honing in on, the mindset, the igniter mindset, right? And the curriculum for leaders that we built, and all these like capacities that we were able to build that we can share with the world. Because had it not been for 2020 and a lot of clients shutting down and some of our work,
75% of them to be exact.
Yeah, right? So a lot of our work stopping and stalling, and us turning inward and focusing on what is it that is most valuable and meaningful for us to show up with in the world when, because this too shall pass. At some point, we're going to re-emerge. What are the tools in our tool belt? What is the value that we can present? And previously, we were in this environment of always delivering to clients, being in front of clients, and kind of building the airplane as it was flying. Well, the airplane kind of landed for a little bit, and we were able to build some really incredible capacity that we didn't have before. And it wouldn't have happened had that pause not taken place.
That is that's a mindset thing, right? Like, this isn't a shutdown. This is an opportunity to reimagine. Like, let's go be this whole idea of we're only limited to what we are by what we do today. Well, 75% of the things we were doing today were not there anymore. So it was almost as if there was no constraint, and we got to really reimagine. Like, in the perfect world, having done this for a while now, how would we reformulate to do this, like, just in a more talented way, in a more efficient way, in a higher value way? How would we build that organization? And just that embrace of the reimagining was powerful. And it's probably one of those stories I will carry with me for 30 or 40 years.
So what opportunities did 2020 bring? For me, it's around coaching opportunities. So whether it's my kids who are seeing history like being written in front of them with all of these unprecedented things, and the ability to help ask them the right questions to shape their mindset and outfit them to move forward into the future, right? And the history that will be written. Or whether it's with clients or whether it's with team members, or, to be able to say, yes, this is a problem. How do you think we could solve this? Like, what ideas do you want to have? Hey, like, here's an assignment. Go back and brainstorm and bring back 10 bullet points on like different ways that we could proceed through this. Like, those are opportunities in a setting like this that I don't think come along real often. We can always coach, but this is an opportunity to help support people to do real step function growth instead of just small incremental personal development and growth. I mean, the challenge with that, though, as you guys know, is like we have to be in the headspace to be able to be coaches, to be able to let go of our own security, right? And think about what's going to help them succeed. But man, the opportunity for coaching
is big.
It's big.
And it was, and I would say, like, it was super intense. So I feel like a lot of my growth this year came from that opportunity, is like really like diving into someone else's challenges with them, whether it's organizationally or personally. It was super intense though. And it's definitely added to the ride. So Yeah, awesome opportunity. And I just kind of wrap with, like, I think the opportunity is for story.
Yeah.
Like, as we go around the horn here, like, how many stories are we going to have to tell about this year? And whether it was the embracing a different mindset or the amount of development that we ourselves gain by coaching in such an intense way, or dealing with this environment where every spark is a fire.
Yeah.
You know, we have everyone's bringing in all the stuff every day. The financial insecurity, the employment insecurity, maybe it's of a spouse, the health of a parent, the health of a kid. Are the schools open? Are they closed? Like, we're bringing all this stuff in, and it takes one spark and it's on fire.
Yeah.
And that's the truth of what these leaders have had to deal with. And it's been definitely a year of growth. And hopefully the stories we bring out of this are super strong. But kind of transitioning, like, what about next year? Like, we got to turn the page, right?
Right.
Like, kick this one in the ass and send it home.
What about,
like, let's get into 2021. You know, I'm interested, like, what's your guys' process? Like, how do you get ready for next year? Like, you're going to theme next year and say, you know, this is really what I'm looking to do. This is how I'm going to come out of 2021 different. Kind of, what is your process to get ready for next year and set your measures of success?
Yeah.
Hope is not a strategy.
Hope is not a strategy. I mean, for me, I'm not going to say that 2021 is dramatically going to be any different than previous years. I mean, I think it's reviewing my personal purpose, reviewing the commitments that I have that I want to live aligned to, and saying, okay, for this season, like, what do I see coming up in this season? What are the trends? Where are my kids developmentally? Where are our clients? Where's our business developmentally? Okay, so knowing that this is my purpose and my commitments, and knowing that these are kind of where we are on the journey, how do I need to apply my purpose and commitments and show up specifically to help us along this, to get from mile marker January 2021 to mile marker December 2021? Like, you know, every mile is different on a trail. Like, sometimes it's flat, sometimes it goes over a pass, sometimes it summits up on top of a mountain, right? So my job is to look at, what's this next mile marker? Like, what are my guesses? And is my role to let someone else lead? Do I need to outfit with some tools to help us successfully navigate it? Like, how do I really show up? So that takes reflection. It takes holing up for a day or two, hopefully someplace pretty. And given some time to do disciplined thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just keep thinking of, you know, this metaphor of I'm breaking up with 2020 and I'm letting go.
Right.
I'm letting that year just...
You're married with no kids. It's okay. They can just go away. 2020 can just go away.
Go away. And, you know, 2021, I don't really know you. I don't know if I can trust you yet.
Yeah, right.
You know, I'm proceeding with caution.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to not get too emotionally involved with 2021 before I really get to know this year and what it's going to bring.
I gotcha. Yeah.
So I'm gonna take my time to get to know 2021.
Right. 2021 doesn't get an overnight bag. It's only dinner.
But to, you know, on a more serious note, I think back to this whole, you know, the only constant is change. If stability is an illusion, what are the things that we're going to focus on in 2021? Well, I'm not going to get too hung up in outcome. I'm going to focus on the process.
Right.
I'm going to focus on controlling the controllables and taking some of these lessons of the things we talked about and applying them to, because now we know that we don't know what's going to happen. Right? Yeah. We don't know what the outcomes are going to be that we can count on, but we do know, you know, some things that we can control, and that's our own actions and behaviors.
Well, and when you think about what you're going to tell your grandkids, like, what if that was the thing we took away? What I took away from 2020, 30, 40 years ago, is that stability is an illusion, and I am quick to let go of the status quo and lean into what's coming next. And, like, man, if we could take that into 2021, that is valuable. Like,
it's huge.
Thank you, 2020, for teaching us that lesson. I mean, don't let the door hit you on your way out. But, you at least left we learned from the experience.
Yeah, and I think that's, as I looked at 2020 last December, I'm thinking, 2020 should really be the year of story. It's where I'm going to learn how to tell our stories of courage and tell our stories of purpose and really share. And then it became the year of disruption. So we added so many stories through this year that I'm committed to 2021, like sharing those out in a meaningful way, like those learnings, all the things you just said, Luke.
Yeah.
Like, why should we be doing this work? Because that line between chaos and order is thin. We need to build our resilience. We need to be leading the right way. And like, if you don't do it now, when? If not now, when?
Yeah.
So I'm looking at 2021 to be a year filled with great stories. Again, stories of purpose, stories of courage, and stories about performance and how great leaders kind of weathered this and are coming out the other side in a very successful way. My process is similar, right? I'm going to sit down over the course of 3 or 4 nights probably and really go through my personal strategic plan, look at my purpose, think about my roles, look at my commitments, and say, what are the behaviors I'm exhibiting today that are discounting from me achieving my purpose?
Yeah.
What are the behaviors I'm exhibiting today that are advancing my purpose? I need to do more of one and less of another, but I've got to get tactical in what that means. I got to get close. I got to say, what are the things that will create good sleep? What are the things where I can incorporate motion? What are the things I need to learn? Effectively, it's no different than our process in work. It's about agendas. What are the things I need to do? What are my projects for 2021? What are the things I need to learn? And I think whether we're talking about individuals, teams, or organizations, that process of change, what are the things I need to do? What are the things I need to learn? And then how do I sustain it once we find success?
Yeah.
So, I'll be digging into that process as we go through, the final month of this year. And I just really enjoy that time. And I'll probably as I work through my gratitudes, I'll take some time and I'll pen off a couple notes to people and shoot a couple texts. Hey, thinking about you. Thanks for having this impact on my life. Or I was able to show up this way because somebody taught me a lesson a long time ago. And so, the people that are in the back on this shoulder, the ones that say, hey, you have to operate above reproach, or, they don't care how much they know until they know how much you care. Like, who am I reaching out to thank for the lessons they've imparted to me that have allowed me to kind of get through, or maybe even thrive a little bit through 2020.
Yeah. Man, good stuff.
Yeah.
I think my takeaway that I'll wrap with here is, if you're listening and you feel challenged by this whole idea of, if not this year, like if this isn't the year to let go of the status quo and move towards something else, then you're probably never going to do it, right? If you feel challenged by that personally, like, we would love to help. Reach out. We'd love to connect with you. If you think you need help getting over the hump and letting go and moving forward individually, certainly would love to do coaching. For your organization or team, would love to talk to you about what experiences, what learnings could we help partner with you to provide to them to help them move forward, let go. And then the last thing is, if you resonate with this, but you see someone in your life who needs to hear that message, like, be the courageous leader that sparks that change in their life,
right?
That moves them along. Like, we really believe that evolution of systems, of people, of teams, of organizations, it begins with someone taking a courageous step, doing something that makes them feel a little weird and squirmy and uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And I just want to encourage you to do that. Take that step, help that person see things from a different perspective.
Yeah.
And know that we're here to support you. So thanks for listening. Chris and Hannah, thank you. This was a good one.
Oh, yeah.
It was fun.
Love doing it with you guys. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. If you liked what you heard today, there's a lot more on our website, purposeandperformancegroup.com. And don't forget to subscribe to our podcast by hitting the subscribe button so you get notified of every new episode and video that we produce.